Welcome to Redbeard Radio. I'm Brian Keith, and if you're like most people, you have tried your hand at design at some point in your business. Maybe you built a whole website, maybe you used a template and went from there, maybe you worked in Canva and built yourself some ads. I find that pretty much every entrepreneur has at some point said, "This isn't that hard, I'll do it myself." And you're probably right some of the time. But also, probably, you kept on doing it until at some point you got to a project where you thought, ugh, this is taking too long. Or you finish it and you go, ugh, that result isn't that great. And so, how do you know when you should just do it yourself versus go hire a professional? That is the topic we are exploring today with Jason Sugar, who has a web design company and is going to lead us through how to answer that question. Jason, welcome to Redbeard Radio.
Thanks, Brian. I'm happy to be here.
Now, this is a topic near and dear to my heart because I was just recently launching a new course and thought, oh, I want to use this new tool for delivering it. So I'll just go ahead and spool up a new subdomain on my WordPress site real quick. I'm a pro. I've done this before. It's not a problem. And then, of course, the rest of the story is I get parts of it built. And then I think, well, okay, I don't need that functionality. And I really just need to get this course live so I can start selling it. So that isn't where I want it to be, but I'll ignore that over there. This theme isn't playing properly with this plugin. And short story is I went to Gumroad. I thought, okay, I have to get this thing live now. I'm going to put it on Gumroad and then I'll come back later. And it's the problem is that I'm competent, but I'm not an expert at WordPress. I'm like a solid 3 out of 5.
Yeah.
I've done some custom template coding. I've done some complicated stuff, but that's a problem because is it actually more profitable for me to be setting up a subdomain and getting a learning management system going? Or is it more profitable to be writing the course or writing the emails or doing things where there's actually a Redbeard style to things? So this problem, this topic, this challenge, so many entrepreneurs face. Man, Jason, I feel it. And I'm excited for you to give us some rubrics so we can understand better when to go talk to other people and give us some tips on how to find the right web design company, because there's a million options and that's a big problem when we're looking at a million options. So before we dive into that real quick, SugarWeb, give us the story. What do you do and why are you authority on this particular question?
Well, first of all, I hear you. And I know lots of people have that experience about, I can do it. Did I do it well enough and so on? And yeah, the question, when to hire someone or when to do it yourself, like a lot of questions, is there's a spectrum. It depends. There's no straight, simple answer, right? And I do have a sort of a way to lay it out that I think can be helpful when making that call. As far as, I'm a techie guy, at heart. I wrote my first little program in BASIC when I was 12 on my Tandy 1000 computer.
Oh, man.
So I've been doing websites, for a long time. But a few years ago, thank God, my brother, who's much better, who's much more right brain, left brain, whatever
smart.
It is.
Let's just call him smart.
No, he's not smarter. He's just more creative, and he's got a really awesome design sense. And so we've been partnered together for the last few years, and that really upped the whole game as far as our offerings. So he leads the design side, the creative side. I lead I'm still leading the tech side, the development side, the customer service, project management. I love, building relationships with people, and really mostly like why, I'm a small business. I'm an entrepreneur. I think I love it. I love the sovereignty that comes with it, the freedom, the independence, and all that. It's a lot of work. It's not the easy road to go, but it's definitely, I think, the best. So, anyways, I've got a lot of experience with not only putting websites together, but almost even more importantly, or equally importantly, I know what it's like to build a business, to want to offer a service, to be of service to people. And then how do you build that relationship? And online is a particular context in which you're building the relationship from the first time someone comes to your domain and then all the way through the journey to them, hiring you to do a service. So I have personal experience with that. And I have, of course, a lot of experience with clients, helping clients do that.
So what would you say is the way an entrepreneur can tell if they have the chops to do it or not? And here's my story. I've done a bunch of basic design stuff and I know I can follow a template. And I even in an interview recently for my podcast said, oh yeah, one of the few things I don't really do is I don't work in Canva at all. And then I think it was the next day, I put together a Canva template for a buddy who then put it on his Twitter account and ended up, I got a bunch more leads and a bunch more interviews from that.
Hmm.
Like as soon as I said, that's what I don't do, I did it and ended up getting some results.
Hmm.
So it's hard to know, am I actually good at design? Because I'd say no, that's my weakest area, but it's hard to assess, right? We can assess if we send out emails and either no one opens it or people email back and say, you're a horrible person, I hope you die. Like we know, or we don't
Mm-hmm.
sell anything. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh crap, I better hire a copywriter. I know. But with design, how do I know if what I have is good enough or what I can do is good enough? And how do I even know that? Because if I think I'm good enough, and I don't seek help, but it turns out I could actually be getting twice the results if I hired a professional. That you might be banging your head against the wall thinking you need to write better, but no, you need better design. How do you assess that, Jason?
Yeah. Okay. Well, so let me kind of jump in. There's actually 5 areas you want to consider when when putting together a website, and really design is just a part of it, and it's ostensibly not even the most important part. I'll just quickly sort of rattle them off. The 5 areas. It's got to work well on the phone, so
Mm-hmm.
that's more important these days than ever, right? It's got to work well on different screen sizes. And you probably already know the stats on that. I mean, we're spending overall more than half our time on the phone. So now you can get a responsive template. You can use a web builder that's fundamentally responsive in the sense that it kind of stacks things okay on smaller screen sizes. But that's not enough because it depends on your content. It depends on how images are cropped. It depends on the size of the font, depending on the screen size, and it depends on the negative space, on margins. So you might actually have to design something, a section differently, have one version show up on the phone and a different one on a tablet and a different one on a desktop.
Mm-hmm.
So working well on the phone is huge. And that involves, mostly we're talking about design and structure. The second major thing is it's got to be easy to navigate and consume the content. Now, the navigation depends on how much content you have. I mean, how complicated your content is. I mean, if you just have, homepage and about page and a blog, that's pretty easy. It's pretty straightforward. If you've got tons of services or subcategories of services, you want to structure it in a way that doesn't overwhelm the visitor and kind of help guide them on the journey. And that's actually number 3. You want to guide your visitor on a journey, starting with the journey that you want them to take, that you think will be most helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And you can kind of break that up into pain. What's their pain right off the bat? Well, first of all, basic marketing principles. You want to focus on them, not you. And that's an easy mistake to make.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to focus on benefits, not features. That's another easy mistake to make. So that's marketing 101. And there's an example of where design's important. It's got to be a good experience. But more as important is you want them to see what they want to see, learn what they want to learn, and to take the action you want them to take. So what's the pain that they're experiencing? Yep. They're like, okay, he gets it. Pleasure, it's like, oh my God, that's what's possible. The solution, here's what I do, here's how I can help you. And then a gift to get them started on their way. It could be an assessment, a checklist, something like that, a lead magnet, we call it, right? And that actually leads to number 4, which is the specific call to action. You got to identify what's this one primary thing action you want them to take. And it's typically you're offering them something of value that's free, no strings attached, it's relevant, it's quick to consume, like a checklist or a guide or a PDF, a short PDF. And then the last area is you want to sprinkle social proof throughout the site. You want to provide credibility, right? I've done this before. I've helped people solve their pain point. I'm trustworthy, all that. So those are the 5 areas. It's got to work well on the phone. It's got to be easy to navigate and consume. You want to guide them on their journey. You want to lead them to a specific call to action, and you want to provide social proof. So of the 2 main parts to the answer of when do you do it yourself, when do you hire someone, A, it's what's involved, which I just laid out. That's the what. What are you going to put together? And then the answer to the second part is, well, who should do it? Should you do it or a professional? So before I jump into that, how am I doing so far?
All that sounds reasonable. I want to know, how can I assess whether or not I suck or I'm good?
Yeah.
For any of
Okay.
those 5 parts. That
Okay.
it's one thing if you pull up your site on your phone and it looks awful, that's obvious, okay? But your standards of here's what good looks like in terms of negative space on a tablet when it's been rotated into the horizontal hamburger
Mm-hmm.
position, that's not something like there's level of details here. And I used to work many, many years ago at an internet marketing agency where we had a QA department that had
Mm-hmm.
people where all day long they tried to break stuff.
Mm.
And that we had a team for that at that company. I don't have a team for that. I have that function that I do sometimes. I have that function that staff does sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But how can I know if I'm doing it well enough? And that's the thing is if I can't tell if there's a problem or not, like back to the example of what if I'm kneecapping my sales because my design isn't good enough, but I think it's a copy problem.
Mm-hmm.
How does SugarWeb analyze that so they can say, oh yeah, it's a copy problem. Your design's fine. You just suck at writing. Here's a copywriter to hire versus, oh no, your design sucks. You're losing conversions and we're going to prove it to you in 1 month.
Mm-hmm. I'm starting with you have to know these are the 5 areas to address in the first place.
Yeah.
Okay, so and that's most people don't know that. So okay, but you want to zero in on, let's say, the design, let's say falling short versus the copywriting falling short.
Well, just even helping entrepreneurs listening and making a decision. There's all these things I could explore hiring someone to help me fix, from getting better headshots to website design to writing a better Twitter account to sales coaching. I have a million places I could spend my resources to get better trained or get better results. And so I have to assess all of them. Well, how are my selling skills? Is my public speaking good enough, or should I hire a speech coach? There's all these different places I could spend, and I want to understand better. Selfishly for myself, for Redbeard, but also for all the listeners. How do I tell whether I need to go hire a professional or even reach out and get an assessment of some kind?
Okay. Well, speaking of assessment, that is one thing that's actually our primary lead magnet, is that we offer that a free assessment to say, how are you rating? How would we rate each of these 5 areas on your site? So we'll just hold that thought for a second. Although I suppose you may be interested in how we.
I'm holding it because you asked me to, but I'm really curious. Well, because as soon as you said that, I thought, okay, I thought through various of my properties, but also client sites, and I thought through your 5 things. And I immediately thought, there's this one thing I have, which I'm not going to mention unless we all seem by embarrassment, where I think I actually don't have any social proof throughout. I have a bunch of social proof at the end of this one page. But from what you said, I thought, why don't I go and include more social proof throughout this one long page kind of website to go encourage? Because I have calls to action throughout to go do the one task that the page has.
Good.
But my social proof is all at the end. And of course, in a perfect world, that social proof would be, as you're saying, scattered throughout, but also refer to the very specific thing. Like in this case, I'm asking you to book a call with me to assess, can I help you out? So wouldn't it be better if, because there's 2 different things. Should I have social proof that sells you on why the result of the thing I'm asking you to do is good, or whether the very next step, because I have some testimonials that say, I got on a call with Brian that made me $10,000. I have other testimonials that say, hiring Brian as my coach was the best investment. I made all my money back in the first month, etc. And it's interesting because I think, well, which of those social proof things is actually better if what I'm trying to get you to do is book a call? And that's the kind of thing where I think, oh man, a conversation with Jason about this.
Okay.
Because there's different approaches.
Sure. First of all, I've just pulled up a sample audit, and I'm happy to take you through some of the details.
Yeah.
That may be,
I'm really
that
curious.
can help address that. But the bottom line is, and you've alluded to this a couple of times, the bottom line is, what is the result that you want? That's the only way you're going to know ultimately. Like, are you getting the leads you want? Well, let's start with you're getting the traffic you're getting. But then, are you getting the conversion that you want? Are you getting having the conversations with people that are they moving themselves along the sales relationship? And ultimately, are you making the sales compared to what did you spend? Now, did you spend 100 hours of your own time at $100 an hour or $200 an hour? Or did you spend a couple $1,000s hiring a professional? I mean, at the end of the day, that's the kind of comparison you're going to need to make. But I can't, and there's no easy step 1, 2, 3 to figure that out. But I have outlined some of the details. So I'll just take you through some of them and you can stop me when you want.
Yeah.
So how phone friendly is it? Your header's got to be sticky and not too tall. You want your hamburger menu position to be on the top right corner. You want
Mm-hmm.
menu item size and spacing to be easily clickable, with fat fingers. Same thing with the footer menu. You want buttons and links to be super discernible, like good contrast. You want the content stacked and spaced in a way that is comfortable as you're scrolling. I'm focusing on the phone right now.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not having to sort of zoom in on the page to see what the hell's going on. Images, you don't want to have heads half cropped off, or the focal point of the image off to the side where it just leaves people going, what's going on here? At the very least, it's just not professional. At the worst, it's just not functional. And then forms, as another example, you got to have fields that you can type in and that you can see what the hell's being typed in. That kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
The next area is the load time. What's the load time on the phone?
That's such a huge thing.
It really is. And, easy loading, caching, there's all kinds of, page load time. There's all kinds of factors that go into that.
Let's take a moment here, folks. For everyone listening, think about either your main homepage or your main sales page. Do you immediately know what the load time is? Think about that number. Mm-hmm. And if you don't know that, Jason, what is your favorite tool for looking at load time?
Google's Page Insights.
Okay. And then what's a good load time in your opinion?
1 second's great. 2 seconds is okay, is good. And it's got to be less than 3. That's generous.
I love it. You've given us a whole bunch of very specific things. And if someone wants to go dive into the conversation with you about all these specifics and get all the details for what they need to fix, how do people get this assessment from you?
Oh, yeah. Go to SugarWeb.net, click on the free assessment, and schedule a call with me.
What I love about what you're saying, Jason, is that even one of these things, like even just page speed, it is possible for people who have really crap page speed for some reason that just fixing those issues might increase your conversions by 20%, or 50%, or 100%.
Sure.
You don't actually know. It may be that your design is fine in terms of how it looks. Right. And maybe there's something in the back end that Jason's team can go, oh, look at this. This is awful.
That's right.
Tweak that, double your conversions.
That's right. Yeah. So it's so important to get people, people's attention spans are zero basically these days, right? So, and I've got some more details in terms of navigation and consuming and all that. But the other thing that I also want to kind of just leave people with to think about is, so you got what is your content and what is the functionality that you envision, right? So how much content do you have? What kind of content, images, graphics, what kind of functionality do you need to store or not? That kind of thing. So that's one thing you got to look at, of course. The other thing is, what's your level of motivation and your level of skill, right? How motivated are you? How technically savvy are you? How much time do you have? That's the second thing. The third thing is, how much is your time worth? How much are your leads worth? How much business do you generate? What's the cost benefit of saving money up front but losing money via leads, as you're talking about, right? So investment of time and energy and money is the third thing. And 4, how professional do you want it to be? Some people have higher standards, some people have lower standards in terms of what they think is necessary. So I have a matrix, right, where you have the 5 areas that you got to consider in terms of what you want on your site. And then you got these 4 questions that you can rate. It's like, well, I have a little bit of content, a little bit of functionality. So, all right, let's put that as an 8 out of 10. How motivated am I? Yeah, I'm pretty motivated, but I have no skill. All right, put that as a 5. But how much money? How much time is your worth? And how much business do you do a month? And how much would it cost for a website? And you got to rate that analysis. Well, I mean, I want to make a few grand a month. My time is a couple $100 an hour. It would cost me $2,000 for a site. Well, you can use that. Then you decide what you want to do based on that. And then how professional. You could put something together. A lot of people, like you say, could put something together. But how important is it to look like it was done professionally or that you did it? So those are some things to consider.
I love it. Folks, it's sugarweb.net. If you're on the desktop version, there's a big red button. If you're on the mobile version, go down to the footer to find the big red button that says free website audit. And won't it be interesting to see, Jason, if some folks listen to this interview, they get the audit, and if they get surprised by something they did not know was a problem. If that's you, folks, I want you to tweet it out to me at RedbeardBrian on Twitter. I want you to tell me what you discovered and what you're going to do to fix it, whether it's you doing it yourself, working with Jason's team, whoever. Jason, thanks for being so much for being on the show. What is the best place to follow you on social media?
LinkedIn is where I'm most active these days, and I'm about to resurrect my Twitter account. I've never really been a big Twitter follower, but I've started getting some advice on that. So I'm gonna. So yeah, LinkedIn right now would be the best place.
LinkedIn, great. Jason, thanks for being on the show.
My pleasure, Brian. Thanks for having me.